Thanks, Karine. So the last time that we got this close to a debt ceiling default, President Obama deputized his vice president to lead the negotiations. Why doesn't President Biden trust Vice President Harris to lead these negotiations while he's engaged?
Well, I disagree with your the premise of your question. The president does. The president entrusts the vice president, as we all know, as we have stated many times. She was in the meeting that with the congressional members that occurred very recently, right before the president left for Japan. She has been in regular conversations as well, and has been in conversations with the president. He has taken her consult and listened to her advice, as he always does on many issues. This is one of many issues. And so that has not changed. And I think you actually said something that is incredibly important. The president has been there before, right? He has dealt with these types of negotiations, these types of conversations before. He knows how this all works. This is not new to him. And this is why he is optimistic. And this is why these conversations are going to continue, and he's going to stay on top of them.
And you just said you're assuming the president will be updated momentarily by the team. What was he doing for the last several hours while they were in these meetings?
Well, they were having conversations, right? They were on the Hill, the negotiators. But how would he? Yeah, but how would he be updated if they're still having conversations on the Hill? It just ended moments ago. Look, Peter. Look, Peter.
First year of his term, he conducted because of the COVID pandemic by video conference. Is that not possible right now?
Look, Peter, we're going to give the space to these negotiators, the time and the space to have these conversations. That's what we're going to do. The president is going to continue to be updated regularly, daily, as he has been for the past couple of days. And that's how we're moving forward. That's how we're seeing this process. The president has sat down twice with congressional leaders very recently to hear them out, to have the conversation, to talk about his budget, to talk about the urgency of getting the debt limit done, of Congress doing their job. And so he continued to hold the line in that way. And so, look, we're going to have the negotiators have their conversation. They just ended their last convening, if you will, and they're going to reconvene. I'm certain of that. And so the president's going to get an update from his team, as he did last night, as he done the last couple of days. I'm just going to keep going. Go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. Could you give us any sense if a short-term extension is still on the table, if the parties can't quite get to an agreement for the X date?
So look, I'm not going to go negotiate from here. I'm going to be very clear. We see a path forward. We think there's a path forward. We're optimistic about that. We believe that it is imperative to get this done on behalf of the American people, and we're going to let those conversations continue.
Just another one.
Yeah, sure.
Is it still the position of the White House that the White House is not negotiating on it?
We are not. We are very, very clear about that. The president has been very clear about that. What we're having a separate conversation about the budget, as we have been doing, as our negotiators here have been doing, and the president has directed. And so we've been very clear. We cannot default. We are not a country that defaults on our debt. And the president is and I have been very clear about that. And so that's what we want to see.
Because clearly there are discussions about Democrats giving away things that they would never, ever want to give away. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there is a negotiation and it's being prompted by something. So if not the debt limit, then what is this negotiation?
There's a budget negotiation. This happens every year. When you talk about appropriations, we talk about spending. There are conversations happening about the budget. That is not new. That is regular order. That's what we've been calling for, to go back to regular order. And look, the president has been very clear. Default is not negotiable. You cannot negotiate on the American as Americans paying our bills. That has been very clear. So again, we are confident and optimistic that we can reach a reasonable budget agreement, for a bipartisan one that can pass the House and the Senate. This is a conversation that usually happens, right, every year, in trying to negotiate on the budget and how we move forward. When it comes to the default, it is not negotiable, and we should be moving that forward without conditions.
Regular order under extraordinary circumstances.
Look, we're having a separate discussion on budget and spending priorities. That is something that should be happening. That is something that is part of regular order. That is what you're seeing on the Hill. That is what the president has directed his team to do, is to come to an agreement on the budget. Okay.
Just follow up on Amy's line of questioning.
Yeah,
there.
sure.
If there's no deal on the budget, then the debt ceiling doesn't get lifted, right?
Here's the thing, that shouldn't be the case. It should not be the case. The debt limit should be dealt with as it has 78 times since 1960. You hear us say that all the time because it is the fact. That is how it's been dealt with 78 times since 1960. So that should not be the case. Congress can deal with this. It is their constitutional duty to move forward with dealing with the debt limit. We're going to continue to talk about the budget. We're going to continue to talk about how we get to a place that both sides can agree in a good faith way, and that it can pass the House and the Senate.
I understand saying that should not be the case, but right now, what is happening right now, which seems very clear to be ongoing Senate negotiations over a potential economic catastrophe for not only the U.S. but the rest of the world. So I'm just wondering what the message is. Jake was just asked about this to allies here about what these ongoing negotiations are,
Well,
and also what the end result is.
Look, this is a country that does not pay their debt. We pay our debt. We are not a deadbeat country. The president has been very clear, and the president is optimistic that we can get this done. And so, look, that's kind of where we've been. That's the message that we're sending, certainly to not just Americans, but to the world, that we are not a deadbeat country. When it comes to default, it is not negotiable, and Congress has to get this done.
Thank you, Ma'am. Doesn't White House participation in the negotiations, though, set a dangerous precedent? That if Republicans hold out on raising the debt limit, they can bring the White House to the table and possibly bring concessions on spending.
Say that last part again.
That if Republicans hold out and refuse to raise the debt ceiling, they can bring the White House to the table and bring concessions on spending.
So look, here's the thing. They cannot be holding the American economy hostage. They can't. It is going to trigger a recession. It's going to potentially could lose millions of jobs. These are the facts coming from economists. This should not be happening. And it's going to hurt, devastate retirement accounts. There are consequences here if the debt limit doesn't get done. And so it cannot be held hostage by Republicans. We've been very clear, by these MAGA Republicans, by the Speaker, we've been very clear about that. We have continued to lay out what the consequences could be, not just to members of the Hill, but to the American people, so that they know this could be what happens if Congress doesn't act. So look, the president has held the line on this. It is not negotiable. We should not be negotiating on the debt. This should be done without conditions. Now, we're holding this separate conversation on the budget. That is something that we have been doing for some time now. The president has been clear how he sees moving forward with the budget. And so we're going to have those conversations. But it could lead to a catastrophic economic circumstances if this doesn't get done.